Here we are. Hey, here. It's so good to be back with all of you again. And I I still haven't figured out the whole Zoom live stream thing. So again, Mary and I would both encourage any of you who are watching or listening to interact with us in the comments. And we'll interact with you. And we post this to Facebook. So if you're a Facebook person, pick it up there and you can make all kinds of comments there. And it's very easy to do. But one of these days, I'm going to figure it out and we'll live Zoom it and we'll advertise ahead of time and you can join us and join in the conversation. So Mary and I were talking beforehand a little bit and it's a happy day. It's a
More.
yes. So we're talking about some of the poems, and as you all know, well, you may or may not know. If this is your first time listening, you might not. But we are working on this poem and dragon collaboration, and it's the dragons kind of capturing the essence that they find and see in the poems, and the poems are capturing the essence of what I wanted to see about life. And they are just doing this wonderful work together, kind of interweaving. And it's been a really beautiful, happy, wonderful thing. And it makes me go over the poems and to think about, wow, I remember that. There's great joy in some of these things. So today, Marian, we're going to look at a poem called Hush My Soul. You remember doing the dragons for that one?
Oh yeah, of course.
Yeah.
They had a great time. Great time. When you guys see it?
When I saw it, I mean, it's one of my shorter poems. And when I saw the dragons down below, I thought, wow, that just says a lot more than the poem itself says. It's just, well, you'll see, because I'm going to share it in a few minutes. I want to remind people, though, who might be watching that, this is, my desire is that any work that I do helps just somehow ring a little bell in your inside of you. We're going to be talking about church bells. That rings a little bell inside of you to look into your own heart, to listen to your own heart, to hear it, and to enter into your own happiness, to enter into your own healing, awakening love, no joy, no happiness, step into all that you are, all the divinity that you are. And that's what my poems are focused towards, and just helping you think about yourself. And the dragons have joined in and doing their own thing, and it's just a beautiful harmony here. So, okay, that's all I wanted to say. Marian, what do you have?
Well, I want to see the poem.
Okay, let me take a sip here because I talked too much. Let me go to screen share and grab the poem. And there it is.
Oh,
there it is. How does it look on the screen share? Is it plenty big?
yeah, looks pretty big.
Okay, good. Everything visible there? Because I only see my.
Yeah, it fills half the page. The dragons fill half the page.
Okay, so I could enlarge it a little bit.
And they're hanging on to they made ropes from the bells, and they're help to ring the bells.
Okay.
Or they think they're helping. The whole thing is about the dragons. They think. We don't know if they can think, but they think they're helping.
Well, I think they are too. Yeah, I was just looking at it at the page itself and looking at all the beautiful colors of the dragons.
A couple of them look like they're overweight.
Well, I think that means they're probably content with themselves. On the left hand, the blue bell with the rope coming down, the middle dragon. I don't know what color you would call that, kind of a rust, a burnt orange or something like that. it's funny. I just got some new tennis shoes that are that color. So I love it. Okay, I'll read the poem and then we'll talk about it.
All right.
Hush, my soul. This sultry Sunday morning echoes with church bells, a slightly muffled ring, a recorded ring. In former days, a call to prayer, when done with actual bells, a call to quiet reflection, the meanings, purposes, possibilities, and creations of life. Today, my first thought, as many think I'm sure, I wonder what time it is. We should hear, slow down. Okay. So I live close to a church and I hear 4 times on the hour these recorded bells ringing. They actually have the old real church bell in out as a kind of like a little monument thing in the by an entry door. But this today it's this recorded ring. But I hear it 4 times. You hear it on the quarter hour, the half hour, the 3/4 hour, and then the hour where the bell actually tolls. This, when I even wrote this, I thought of that poem by The Meditation by John Donne. It wasn't a poem, who was one of the metaphysical poets of the 1600s. And of course, he wrote the famous line that most people know: ask not for whom the bell tolls, it tolls for thee. When we lose anything, we sometimes we think it's gone, but hey, it's really us. We need to be thinking about us. And that's what this poem's kind of about. It's about thinking about us, about who we are. And here come the dragons. Are they slowing down? I can imagine the dragons in this picture. There's so many of them, and I can see them running around a playground and something. And then, oh, the bells. Let's ring the bells. And here they come. And what I love about your the dragons and the drawing here, Marian, is I love the little notes coming out all over. I love that. Just was the touch that made it perfect for me in my way of thinking, because those little notes are all there, and they're the notes of like when we listen to what's going on around us.
Right.
We hear all the beautiful notes of life all around us.
I think they're eighth notes or they're 16th notes, it looks like.
Yes. Some of them, yes. I see one. Is that I can't tell if it's joined or not, if it's a quarter note, but oh no, yeah, I see that most of them are open. Yes, so yes, 16th notes.
So from my point of view, or me being me, I look at this piece, or every piece, and all I really want to say is, who are you, Mike? Who are you that you are sensitive toward, well, my word, sensitive toward feeling or understanding, not understanding things that a lot of us are sort of droned out. We get, things happen and we lose a lot of our creativity or imagination or our wish that we could do something because we're inundated with what we think is as issues. I think, who are you? I think one time I said, who are you? How can you be like that? And you just laughed. So nonetheless, the job is, I see this piece, and the dragons are hanging around waiting to do something. So, the dragons are in my imagination, and they're a symbol of something. I don't know exactly what, but they always seem to be in a good mood, and they want to help. They seem to want to help. They're about somewhere between the ages of 4 to 6 years old, generally. And they want to help. And we don't know when we see one, if in fact, when we look at it, that they are being helpful or not, but their sense is that they're trying to help. So in this case, the idea of having those wonderful old church bells that some old people have remembered, or we see saved somewhere in a museum are no longer being used. And the sound of those bells is the difference between a slide in photography, the components that make up a slide versus a digital image. And the slides have a deeper color. And we say, oh, digital is awesome, which it is. It's wonderful, wonderful, wonderful. But slides have a deeper resonance to them. So this is my thinking when I looked at the piece. So the bells also, and the recording of the bells sounds wonderful, and we're all happy, but nonetheless, the actual bells had a deeper sound.
Yeah.
So therefore, the dragon said, well, we have to have the real bells. So they came up with those real bells, and they have different colors. And then of course the bells were way up high in a church steeple or church somewhere way up high in the church. And we didn't know how to get up there. So they threw some ropes up there and just went climbing and rang the bells.
And that's
what happened.
I think that's why our work together works. It's because the dragons went to help, and I enjoy just offering some little bit of help for people to think about their lives. And so I want my poems to help. The dragons want to help, and it works together just really great and in a very fun way. You mentioned the colors. Oh, by the way, I did want to, just in case anybody's new here this week, I do want to remind you that when Marian talks about the slides having a deeper color resonance, or what, I don't know what the word was that you used, but she's a photographer. She's a professional photographer. She knows, she understands. So all of this is very significant. But what I wanted to ask you, Marian, you mentioned the colors here and the different color bells. Did they mean anything to you when you did them, or was it just the dragon said, "Hey, I want that color. I want that color"?
Yeah. What was the question?
Like, do the colors symbolize anything or mean anything?
Oh, I have no idea.
Okay, fair enough. I guess they mean that anybody who looks at this or who buys our ultimate book will be able to do that for themselves. Think about this.
My story is, my story is, I don't know. I like that. I could.
Okay.
I don't know, actually. It's not up to me. It's all that stuff. It's similar to when you guys and gals when you're out there, over there, creating something, and you say, I think I'm gonna do this. So sometimes you say, I'm just doing it because. Sometimes you say, well, there's all these, we talk about this a lot. I can't, it won't look good. I don't know what to do with it. All that stuff that we go around in our head. So the answer to me is, I don't know.
And my response to that is, I don't think we need to know always.
Yeah.
It's just what gives us joy. It's just what comes out, what just washes out of us.
It's kind of interesting too, Mike. The poems are how we say, extremely thoughtful, very thoughtful, and the concentration and understanding of them is not casual. You want to read it again. You want to say, oh, again. And here we've imposed these cheerful looking cartoons, and it doesn't really resonate with the significance of the poem, I don't think. But for some reason, we think it does.
Yeah, I think it really does. I mean, the poems, I've heard professional poets and authors, for that matter, novelists, people come up with all kinds of like oh, this is what I saw in this. And the poet, a lot of times I've heard professional poets say, oh, I didn't even think about that, but hey, that's great that you saw that, and it's really great. And I think that's kind of what we have here. Is like,
Mhm.
okay, yeah, I want people to think, to look introspectively, and sometimes to appreciate what's out and about us, out around us. But it's it's not meant to paralyze people in thought, and that's what I like about the dragons coming in, is that, hey, here's an interpretation of it. This is what they grabbed from the meaning of the poem. What do you grab?
Yeah,
That's what I
right.
see. That's what I hope people who read our book will recognize and see and say for themselves. Hey, here's the poem. Here's what the dragons got. What do I get?
Yeah, right. It gets your. So I think we should say something about their tails, don't you think?
Go ahead, please do. Yes.
All right. The character, which was developed originally in 1983, by the way, it's a 2-foot prototype that I carved out of polyfoam or whatever you call that. And for some reason, they have these tails. And of course, these are all symbols. So the tail, we have all this, but we don't see it. And the tails have spikes. So when the dragons get drawn, every spike is a color. So if you enlarge it, you'll see they're I have to color every single. This is all done in Photoshop, by the way, anymore. So every spike I draw. Of course, I draw the whole thing, and every spike has their colors. And what I always think is we have those. We have arguments or irritations, and we have spikes. We don't usually visually see them. So the dragons have spikes, but their spikes always seem to have colors, cheerful looking colors.
Yes,
Well, I just think to me, it's all very interesting.
it is. And
Oh, yeah.
let me ask you this, Mary: do the dragons choose their spikes colors? Their spike
Yeah.
colors?
I know. Yeah. I mean, I have no idea because what happens is so they have their spikes and they have to get what I call colored in. And, on Photoshop, there's a lot of colors you can choose from. And I just choose. And I have to enlarge the image so I can make so that this color can fit exactly into their black lining.
Right.
So I don't know. That's my story.
Well, and so to me, that does say something that perhaps you didn't intend, but that we all do have the sharp things, the things that are uh, pokey, and,
Hmm.
we can choose how we're going to color those. We're going
Right.
to let them affect us and affect relationships and affect our joy or our feelings about the world. How are we going to color those spikes for ourselves?
Exactly. Everything in a cartoon, of course, is a symbol correlation to real life. We know that. We don't we all sort of know that.
Yes.
Yeah. So the dragons are always looking for something to do, and they don't have anything scheduled to do or anything they need to. They hang around. I don't know what they're doing over there.
They're waiting to pounce. They're waiting to jump into something with all of their gusto. Yes.
Right.
Yeah. Again, the whole thing about the creative imagination, I can't help it. I taught English for many years, and 10 years I taught British lit. And William Blake of the Romantic period he was a man who, if any of you out there are not familiar with William Blake, just Google him or look him up on Wikipedia or something and look at the images of the things that he drew from what he envisioned and imagined. And one of his really great comments was, my job is not to reason and compare. It is to create.
Oh, see, I didn't know that either. Oh, I'm so stupid.
He didn't want to, and he did most of the romantic period work that he did was basically the latter part of the 18th century, 1790 on, although his work spanned longer time than that. And a lot of great authors and poets from the romantic period is like, this guy is older, but man, he's got some amazing ideas. He's very real, but he would have these visions, and he would draw his visions, and he's known for his fine artistic work. But he wrote some wonderful poems. I bet you all know one of his poems: "Tiger, tiger, burning bright in the forest of the night, what immortal hand or eye could frame thy fearful symmetry?" And he goes on, and the whole poem, that's like 5 stanzas, I think it's 5, maybe 6, is all questions all the way through. But he did a volume, the Songs of Innocence and the Songs of Experience. And what the romantic period authors did is they looked at what the previous age, the Age of Enlightenment, began, which is what birthed the Industrial Revolution. And the romantic writers right away saw, this is squashing the human spirit. It's not that it's not usable. It's not that the Industrial Revolution and the things that are being produced aren't usable, but you can't leave out the human factor. And so the human factor has to do with things that we often can only see in imagination, but we need to express it because that's who we are. We don't need to be crammed into cities on top of one another. And some of the poems that William Blake wrote about were like the chimney sweep. A little boy, they would use 6 and 7-year-old kids, some just about the age of these dragons, to actually be lowered into chimneys and go and scrape them out. So or they'd work in the mines to start gathering material. And that's not what life was about. And so the Romantics, actually beginning with Blake in about 1790, all the way through Alfred Lord Tennyson, they basically forced, because of their involvement in society and the recognition of their work, they forced the parliamentary reforms of 1832 in Great Britain, in the UK. My point being is that our creative imaginations are really important. And my desire is for you to look into yourself and to see who you are, to slow down. Marian, you asked before, one of the things you talked about, you said, when you asked me about, how do you see these things that other people, everybody in the neighborhood hears church bells all the time. Well, that's what you do. You say, I'm important. I deserve to really stop and look and think about what's going on around me and within me. And that's what I want my poems to help people do. And then your dragons come along and say, hey, this is what we get. We're thinking about it, and we grabbed it, and we're ringing those bells. We want to hear it. This is us. And they're expressing themselves. They've got the music going and the bells ringing, and they're enjoying life. That's what we want to do. And that's what everybody wants, is to enjoy life. So that's my lesson. Sorry.
That's very interesting. I wrote down some of what you said.
Okay.
Because I didn't know I forgot some of the stuff. So here's a question that we've talked about. How long does it take, if you attempt to calculate how long it takes to, let's say, draw this particular piece or make the poem? Can you talk a little bit about how long it takes you to create this poem in this particular example?
Yeah. So with this specific poem, that is just these few lines, what is it? 3, 6, 8 lines. It probably took me, see, it's really hard to say, to get the basic words down, an hour, but that's nothing, because then it's hours more than that, going back through what was going on. What did it feel like when I was listening to this? Sultry Sunday. And then the bells. It's not that, sometimes it's the echo that's coming out from them. That's what caught my attention. And so I rearranged. This was not anything close to originally the observations that I wrote down. It's kind of like it begins like an artist doing a sketch before it becomes a painting. Like the St. Louis Art Museum has a lot of sketches from artists that became paintings, and they have the example of the sketches and the paintings. And yeah, you can see the basic forms are there, but the final product is way different from the way it started out. So I may have spent with this poem maybe 4 hours, and over the course of the years, ever so often I will look at them. And it's not like these are super old, but over the course of a few years, I would look and I would say, oh yeah, no, I don't like that, and change again, and then reread it a few times. So maybe there's 4 to 6 hours invested in a poem like this.
Mm-hmm.
So does that answer your question?
Um, as Judge Judy says, is not an answer. So we'll just go back just a little about this. There's all that thinking, remembering, conjuring up about the bells.
Mm-hmm.
In this case, let's just say, did you ever hear the bells being rung a long time ago when you were just a little puppy guy?
Yeah.
Were they in a big church somewhere with real bells?
Yeah. In the small town in southeast Missouri where my grandparents lived, you could hear the bells from the church at times. If I was awake or if I was paying attention, they were there. And I did hear in South St. Louis, you would hear bells. You know,
So here's a good phrase if you're paying attention. So you're not particularly, paying attention. You just hear the sonorous sound. Long ago, you heard.
Yeah.
So I'm getting at the obvious, and we all know you heard it long ago. And it wasn't you creating a poem. The point is that this is a memory. This was a memory and a visual sound memory that resonates with you for a long time.
Mm-hmm.
And when you say that that's part of what eventually brought the idea, or not even a conscious idea, about writing a poem about it, if you let's say if you wanted to, listeners out there, if you want to calculate, just because your math part of your brain says, I wonder where that came from. There was an idea, a sound, a perception way back then, right? So in this case, we're talking about how long did it take? Well, by the time you felt like, I want to talk about the bells, you wrote some stuff down. I said, I don't, and that process maybe took over time for 3 or 4 or 5 hours. So I really don't like that. I don't think that dash should go there, that kind of stuff, the detail. But the perception was been hanging on a long time. And to be able, right, Mike?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I get what you're saying. Yes.
So be able to think, I remember that thing is what we're digging for. The creativity that you used to have and got bogged down because
Life
stuff, right? Yeah. Is what we're diving for, because it's okay. I think I said that. So in this case, let's say 4 hours, 5 hours to finalize this. And then finally you say, why did I lose? I think there should be a comma and not a period. We get that. In my scene, the dragon character is hanging around somewhere being
Oops.
whatever they're doing, which we don't necessarily always know what they're doing. And they show up. So in this case, it's a pretty defined thing. Here's a poem, here's a story. What do they think about it? What would look good? Because of course, I'm being paid a lot of money to do this, right? In my head.
Yes. Yes.
Not dollars, not dollars. And so it doesn't take that long to say, what's the story? It could take, actually, Mike sends me a poem and I print it out. And then I carry it around with me. I carry the print around with me probably all day and look at it from time to time, because I don't know exactly what the dragons are going to want to do and what tells the story, so that when you see it, you'll smile, and then you'll read the poem, and the whole thing will be a package for you. So I would say that I look at that poem for about 24, 36 hours, just looking at it, say, oh yeah. So when you calculate that in, it's thinking time.
Yes.
So
And
we
that
need
is,
we need that thinking time, and not, you can't pressure. Don't say, well, how long is it going to take me to come up with it? When thinking time doesn't do that. You understand?
absolutely.
And then they decide, oh yeah, we need this and we need that. Now, as far as the colors of them, I have no idea what happens there. But the design of the poem, the design of the creation was the same kind of system we all have. Takes that kind of time. And in this kind of drawing it probably took about 4 or 5 hours. Part of what takes the time is I make the outlines in black. I like the idea that they're outlines in black. And you have to have the right size of black ink, all that stuff. That all takes time. And then they have to decide what color they want to be, and so on and so on. So I say 4 to 5 hours for this piece. I'm done.
Well, no, and I think, I was just thinking as you were talking about the process, one of the beautiful things about it is the poem probably took me about that long, the technical end of writing it, and the drawing took that long, but you pointed out about the value of the time spent thinking, the thinking time, that part. It just talks about how valuable our thoughts are, how valuable we all are, but you've got to stop long enough to realize it, to think,
Yeah.
this is, that's it. And so I hope that our work here helps you guys, whoever you are, and you ladies and gentlemen. I hope that it helps you to stop long enough, like the poem talks about, and like the dragons understood from the poem, to stop and reflect. And the dragons did, and they said, we love that. And they found a way to ring the bells to create their own.
Wouldn't it be great if you all who are listening are creating different things, and we'd had an avenue somewhere, Mike, for you there to show us, share what you're doing. That would be a very congenial kind of thing. We'd really have a high value on sharing or seeing what you're doing, if you want, are inclined. I just think that would be.
But you all out there watching us, you have to let us know what you're thinking, and if this reaches you, touches you in any way, that you would desire to do something like that, because we can find a way. Marian and I will find a way to make it happen so that we could communicate more easily.
Right.
With Zoom makes it really possible now, but there are other ways too, I think. So, but I'm not an expert in that. Yes. So, well, Marian, is there anything else for today?
I don't think so.
Okay, I don't either for now, but this was, I knew, and we're kind of going through these in the order we did that we worked on the poem and the drawings together, the dragons and the poems together. And I was really looking forward to this one today. I love this. I love the dragon's response and their interpretation of the poem. So it was a very happy one. Yes. Okay.
All right,
Well,
then.
if we have nothing else today, please, if you're watching this on YouTube, and it's really easy to just hit that little like button. If you haven't subscribed to the channel, hit the subscribe, because these kinds of things would let us and Marian, let me and Marian know if you're valuing this, if it means something to you, and maybe we can do something more interactive. That would be wonderful. Yeah, so let us know. And if you're seeing this from Facebook, again, that's a place. Comment there. You don't have to comment on YouTube if you don't have a YouTube account. If you have a Facebook account and see it, comment on Facebook, and we will respond because we both look at it. So
Well, thank
okay.
you for listening, everything.
Thanks. Thank you all for listening. Marian, thank you for this time. I really appreciate it. We have a
No,
good
me too.
time. We have a good time doing this and doing our emails back and forth and working on these things. So anyway, that's about it for today. And I will see you all later. Marian, you want to say bye?
Bye.
Bye now.